Hi, Duncan Chessell, Managing Director of Resolution Minerals. Here in North America, it's about to get really busy, exciting times ahead as we begin our maiden drilling program. And I thought, given that it's going to be very busy, it was time to update investors on what we've been doing and what's about to happen. Bit of a corporate snapshot. Resolution Minerals has 205 million shares on issue. We recently completed a capital raise of $4.5 million on the ASX, which saw an incredibly high level of demand for that. That's catched us up now to commence operations in the coming weeks and to roll through a couple of drilling programs, plus commence some of our regional work to develop some other drill targets in the immediate future. So in a really good, strong cash position. How that really came about was a bit of a transformational event for the company. Late last year, I flew up to Alaska to assess the 64 North project, which was within the shadow of the headframe of the Pogo gold mine. So it was just very exciting as an Australian junior. You just don't get an opportunity to get a hold of a chunk of ground next to a world-class operating gold mine like this. And it was through a sort of a curious set of circumstances where Millrock Resources is a project generator. They don't raise their own capital. They tend to bring in funding partners. They weren't able to find any money on the TSX at the time, and they were searching further afield and came down to Australia looking for some investment, and that's where we got introduced. So what that meant is walking along this boundary fence, looking at the world-class operating Pogo gold mine, 3 drill rigs operating on the Goodpaster prospect, which has recently been announced, some fantastic results by Northern Star on that, only 450 metres from our claim boundary. And I thought we've just got to get onto this thing and drill along this boundary fence, because we had the same rocks, the same geophysics, and we're just a stone's throw away from this, fantastic jewel in the crown of Northern Star, the Pogo gold mine. So that's what happened. We did the deal late last year to earn up to an 80% interest in the project, and I'll go through some of the detail in that later in the presentation. Some of the headline numbers: the Pogo gold mine, it's produced 4 million ounces of gold at a bit over 13 grams per tonne, pretty reasonable, 300,000 ounces per annum, and it's still got 6 million ounces in the ground and continuing to this day under Northern Star's guidance. So the location of the 64 North project is in the Tintina Gold Province in Alaska, which stretches for about 1,000 kilometres across the Yukon of Canada, east-west into Alaska, and hosts over 100 million ounces of gold to date in a number of deposits. Typically, it is lower grade resources, such as the Fort Knox gold mine near Fairbanks, only 40 k's north of Fairbanks, and that's actually operating 200,000 ounces per annum, economically produced by heap leach and CIP plant in 2019 at only 0.3 grams per tonne gold. So that's typical of Alaskan large-scale, low-grade resources. Now, there's a number of opportunities of that on our ground as well, but what we're really chasing is the Pogo-style high-grade, over 10 ounce per grams per tonne resources. That's what we're looking for in this immediate drill program, and obviously keeping our eyes wide open for other opportunities within the project area. Just zooming in a little bit on the actual project itself, the claims, as they call them in Alaska, we call them tenements in Australia. The claims in Alaska, our claims are the blue ones that Resolution is earning into an 80% interest on, and the yellow ones in the centre are owned by Northern Star, where their operating Pogo gold mine is. And you can probably see there's a black and white line running left to right of screen from west to east into the Pogo mine, and that piece of infrastructure allows us to operate all year round. So we're actually able to conduct winter drilling operations close to this road. We've pushed out spur roads from the main Pogo gold mine road to access the Aurora targets. Having the road is a huge logistical advantage over many other projects in Alaska because we're not reliant on helicopter access, which can be incredibly expensive to access all of our claims. And we're also able to operate all year round, giving us good news flow throughout the year. Many projects in Alaska would only be able to be operated on for 3 to 5 months of the year. One of the key things that we look for is the right ingredients for the project, being the right geology. So we want the right rocks, the right structures. So we need the same intrusions, the big Cretaceous granite intrusions that are typical of the mineralising event throughout the Tintina Gold Province. And we've got a lot of those. Obviously very close to the Pogo Gold Mine, you'd expect there to be some of those Cretaceous granitic intrusions, which there are, but also throughout our project area there are examples of that in outcrop, and that's a really key indication that we're in the right place. The structures, the vertical feeders, the faults that allow the fluids to flow from deep underground and be driven by those hot granites, and to allow mineralised fluids to come closer to the surface, and either in the lower grade systems sort of percolate out into lots of little tiny fractures, or in our style, the Pogo style, you're actually looking for where the rocks have been sheared by this northwest trending shear, and it's popped open and made space available in a flat-lying sheet. So we're seeing the Pogo style gold mineralisation is actually multiple stacked layers, horizons, up to 20 to 30 metres thick in any one of those stacked horizons. And that's what makes up the Pogo Gold Mine resource. And what we're aiming to do is to drill test near some of these vertical structures that we see on our ground, and drill down next to those and test to see whether there are these flat-lying, high-grade Pogo style mineralised zones. And that's what's going to be pretty exciting over the next few weeks. That's what we're hopefully going to be hitting. And that's what the prime focus of this first drill program is. Before we get into the immediate drill program, I just want to talk to the regional scale and some of the previous work that's been done that's allowed us to identify some other opportunities within the project area. There's been over $15 million spent in the late 90s and early 2000s by previous explorers, around about 40,000 surface samples, which gives us a pretty good idea of some of the best areas to go to, and was another one of the reasons why we picked up this project, and it being such a large area as well. So it's a fantastic opportunity. We see the same rocks throughout the district. We see some great geochem anomalies over to the east at the Divide prospect, to the northern side of the actual Pogo Gold Mine. We've got the North Pogo, South Pogo prospects. Looks very much akin again to what's going on at Pogo, and down to the southwest, the LMSX, Eagle prospects, which I'll get to later as well, which are very prospective for that larger tonnage, potentially slightly lower grade, but larger tonnage opportunities. And we're hoping we're going to be able to delineate some drill targets on those for either late this year or early next year. So watch this space on that. Zooming in a little bit closer now onto the actual West Pogo block, which is immediately adjacent to the Goodpaster discovery, which is outlined in the yellow. The yellow outline is the surface projection of that, and you can see the Pogo Gold Mine surface projection as well, immediately to the right of page, and that's the 10 million ounce endowment projection to surface. So you can see the Goodpaster prospect is 2.5 kilometres in strike, about 1 kilometre across, and it's open in all directions. And that's when I was there late last year, 2019, walking along that boundary fence north to south, looking across at the drill rigs just sitting there. They'd been there for the last 18 months, drilling this prospect out. That's what kind of really excited me. I thought, well, if we've got the same rocks as that, we've got the same structures, these northeast structures running through, northeast, northwest structures, cross-cutting, that's the same stuff. We're seeing the same rocks as where we are on our claims as Northern Star has. We've just got to drill this thing. The rock chips in evidence at Half Ounce Gulch and in the Aurora area, our Aurora targets, up to 218 grams per tonne. So that's multiple ounces at surface in rock chips. So pretty exciting stuff. We have identified that sort of in that north-south corridor, the echo targets way up at the top there in the north. We need to do a little bit more geophysics to tidy up the drill collars for those. There'll be a focus for us later in the year, but right now we're focusing a little bit further to the south. We've pushed the road to the Aurora targets, and as we start to see what's happened with the geophysics, where our team has merged 7 historic data sets that we've bought from various previous explorers and merged up for the first time, and seen that demagnetized zone that looks, that geophysical lookalike anomaly, the same as you see at Goodpaster Prospect, the same as over Pogo. We're seeing the same thing on the Aurora target. So that's got us pretty excited. And we see a very similar type of anomaly or geophysical feature on the echo targets to the north. So we're going to have a look at the echo targets later in the year. Immediately right now, we're looking at the Aurora targets, where our drill rig is mobilising to site right now. And in addition to that, we've also run a resistivity survey called a CSAMT survey to test to see whether we've got the similar lithology coming from the Pogo claims across into our ground that we can interpret. So looking at a section here, this is running north to south along the boundary that you had in the previous slide, line 6 on the geophysics, and that's giving us a resistivity picture snapshot of below the surface of the Earth down to around about 700 or 800 metres there in reasonable clarity. What we're looking at right now is the interpreted same horizon that we're looking at the Paradise, which hosts the Goodpaster and the Pogo gold mine mineralisation, and we're seeing that same lithology coming across in our ground and sort of dipping to the west. And as we go to line 3, which is further to the west, it's dipping down, and that sort of seems to be along the same sort of dip as we see as the cross sections over the Pogo gold mine. So that's encouraging. We've planned some drill holes off of that. We've used examples of the same resistivity survey, the CSAMT survey. We looked at what they did on the Pogo mine, and this is an example of their work they've done, and we've interpreted that using the same survey. And in fact, one of our geologists, Gabe Graf, used to be the exploration superintendent for Sumitomo and also worked for Northern Star and was responsible for the Goodpaster discovery. So he's come on board as a consultant for us and is helping us with the interpretation of these diagrams and resistivity sections, so and drill targeting. So that's, we're doing, I think, everything we can to put those drill holes in the right place and give us the best chance of success in this first program. That said, our first four or five drill holes here on the Aurora targets, right up close against the Northern Star's boundary, it'll be around about a 2,000 metre diamond drill program. We may drill an extra hole there, might make it about 2,500 metres. We'll be assessing that on a daily basis, how we go. And then the next round of drilling will either be up to the north towards the echo targets, or we may move up further up the creek towards the northwest, where we've got the second round indicated there, again in the demagnetized zone. So where we're at right now is we have the drill permits in place, the water bore has been drilled, the camp is mobilising to site, and we're really set for the drilling to commence, imminently, adjacent to the Goodpaster discovery of Northern Star. How it's going to look throughout the year is going to be an iterative program. We're going to learn a lot out of this first drilling program. That resistivity survey, we're going to be taking the core from our first drill program. We'll be measuring the actual resistivity of the rocks, using that to interpret further that work to the north on the echo targets, and then iteratively planning the next drill program so that every dollar spent goes in the ground is spent wisely, and that's really important in for a junior company to do that right. We'll also be doing a little bit of regional work as we go. Part of our agreement is to spend a certain amount of money on the regional program each year, but we will be focusing the majority of our funding on the West Pogo block, drilling, trying to identify Pogo-style gold mineralisation, which is the high-grade, flat-lying sheets of gold, 20 to 30 metres wide, is what we'd like to see. Some of the other prospects in the area that we'll probably start to talk to later in the year. For example, the Eagle prospect, we see some historic drilling there, up to around 14 grams per tonne over narrow intervals. Some reasonable, a little bit wider for 3 and 4 grams per tonne there. So I won't talk to that too much today. We'll be bringing out a more in-depth regional review in about 6 weeks' time, once we've completed our deep dive on all the historic data, and we can bring all of that information together and identify our immediate spend and potentially some drill targets outside of the West Coast block in about 6 weeks' time. A little bit of a recap of the earn-in itself. We are spending $5 million US per annum as a minimum expenditure, and we are self-funding our earn-in. We're doing that over a 4-year period for a total spend of $20 million US, and at each stage we lock in at 30%, 42%, 51%, and then finally at 60%. And then it's on our election, we can continue and do a free carried interest to first production, giving us an 80% on one particular block. We have also the option to turn it into a joint venture at the end of any year, and then that would be a co-funding arrangement with Millrock Resources. We're giving Millrock only $50,000 cash at the end of each year as a cash payment, and there's as you can see, there's also some share considerations at the end of each earn-in period, end of each year, and for a total of 38 million shares over the 4-year period. Just as a bit of a reminder, Resolution Minerals actually started off as Northern Cobalt. We do still retain our Wollongong cobalt copper resource that we drilled out in 2017-18. That's currently under review, and we're looking for alternative ways to move that forward at the moment. We also have the Snetterton project, a titaniferous vanadium magnetite, which also has 3 historic gold mines, very small historic gold mines on it. So that's under review at the moment, but not a focus of the company. Thanks for taking the time to listen to the update. If you want any further information, you can check out the website. My details are also there if you want to get in touch directly. The ASX portal is also a great place, and we have our newsletter, which is available again to sign up on through the website. So thank you.